I got him.
So dudes, welcome to How to Play Every Agent in the Game. If you're familiar with my How to Play Operators in Rainbow Six Siege series, this is basically that, but adapted to Valorant. Basically, the video is separated in alphabetical order, discussing the abilities of each operator, when to use them, different maps that they're useful on, etc. But I try to do as much visual documentation here as I can, and whenever I do talk about an ability, I try to show something on the screen that is at least related to what I'm saying. If you've played CSGO, you'll be familiar with certain terms like molly, flashbang, lineup, etc. But if you have any questions, just let me know in the comments. Astra is the most atypical character in Valorant when it comes to how her abilities are used. So don't expect what I explain here to be the norm. She's the exception, not the rule. During the buy phase, Astra can buy up to 5 stars. I'll explain what stars are in a minute. She goes... and then she no-clips above the map with the ability to place these stars wherever she wants. Once the star is placed after a brief animation, she can look at the star and then make that star do one of 4 things. Either create up to 2 smokes that last 15 seconds, concuss enemies that get too close, recall that star to be used later, which makes a smoke cloud for a very short duration,
Grass, shot plum grass.
or she can go sucko mode. Oh, pro!
No! Save me though. You actually saved me. You actually literally saved me.
I'm flanking them.
Oh, pro!
No! You saved me though. You actually saved me. You actually literally saved me. You literally actually saved me.
There's a bunch mid.
Successful detonation of sucko mode on an enemy will also make them fragile and easier to kill.
That creature is dead. One enemy remaining.
Her stars cost 200 creds apiece. Astra's ult, Lawn Division, is a bulletproof wall that she can deploy across the entire map. Yes, seriously. Welcome to Valorant. You can't shoot through with bullets, but you can shoot utility through it as well as walk through it.
Just push me, say. Nice, huge.
It also muffles the sounds of whatever is on the other side. This is great for assisting on executes on attack and for stalling pushes on defense. It costs 7 ult points and lasts 20 seconds before vanishing.
Right.
Good job, Greg. 4K.
Nice.
I don't know what.
Breach. I took a servo from your arms for my tripwire. Don't be angry. Breach.
Hey yo, what the fuck?
Breach's signature ability is Quake Champions. Breach hits E, looks in the direction he wants to send it, yes, including through walls, and can then charge it up by holding the mouse button to send it even further. Once it's activated, a brief visual cue flashes for all to see and then it detonates, concussing anybody caught in its wake. This ability isn't difficult to use, it just requires a bit of map knowledge to get the absolute most out of. It's a versatile ability that combines crowd control with the ability to delay pushes on defense and make pushes easier on attack. This is a good ability, but more mileage will be done on Breach's flashes than anything else, which you can buy up to 3 of. Look at a wall, see the yellow icon indicating you can flash it, and then hit mouse 1 to send a charge that will blind anyone on the other side.
You can flash through walls? Isn't that kind of OP?
Yesn't. Breach can only flash on collidable objects like walls, boxes, basically any kind of map terrain. He can't just flash out in the open air. Again, it's not hard to use, but requires some map knowledge to get the absolute most out of. But since he gets so many of them, his team can get map control very quickly by chaining them as the team moves forward. His single-use ability, by default bound to C, is an area-denying ability that fires a timed charge through a wall that goes
Boom.
detonating and potentially killing anyone caught on the other side of it. This quite literally forces opponents to move out of the way, sometimes putting them in awkward positions that make them easier to take out. Breach's ult sends a dazing and knocking effect in a large cone in front of him through all terrain. This can quite literally stop a push dead in its tracks. When you see a Breach ult on the enemy board, it's probably not a good idea to go for a 5-man rush.
Pushing A short, lots A short, lots A short.
I'm ulting A short.
Literally like all of them.
Breach is the smartest, brain dead character. Because, like I said, his abilities aren't particularly difficult to use, but reward good map knowledge due to their ability to be used through terrain. Coordination with your stack is key to making plays on attack, but he's a defensive powerhouse with his ability to lock down lanes entirely by himself.
Flash out! Blinding!
Nice.
That's all fucking. That's funny. They're gonna rotate here 100%. Oh, never mind. I'll say. That's spike on site. Spike on site.
Spike down. C. One enemy remaining.
Good stuff.
Boomer!
Hi, I'm Steve Bloom.
Boomerstone is usually the first smoke character new players gravitate towards because his kit is pretty straightforward. Brimstone's signature ability is Google Maps, wherein he can mark spots for smokes to fall down on the selected position from the sky. He can buy up to 3 of them. One thing worth mentioning is that Brim can only smoke things from the top down. Brim also does not get refreshes on his smokes, unlike Omen, so why pick Brim over Omen or Astra? Brim has the longest smokes in the game at 19 seconds, stagger them out, and for a typical execute on bind A site, for example, he can smoke off heaven and truck at the jump, then smoke off heaven again for a combined total of 38 seconds of smokage. That's a lot of time. If you get a Viper to do a lineup for that particular heaven spot, you don't even need to do that, which gives you even more flexibility with the timing of your smokes. He can also spam all 3 of them at the same time if you want to do a really aggressive take. He also gets arguably the best molly in the game with a massive area of effect. It has a lengthy travel time and can be shot over long distance, which for post plants is actually a good thing because you can use it to deny diffuses and waste time. An often overlooked aspect of his kit are his combat stims, which he can buy 2 of at a time. They cost 100 creds apiece but can make the difference in a gunfight. It creates a field that gives players standing near them a faster fire rate, faster reload speeds, faster equip speeds, and faster aim recovery. So in between bursts, your aim will recenter on your crosshair more quickly. It's like a Reyna ult that you get for 100 creds. It's really good. Brimstone's ult is a literal Hammer of Dawn from Gears of War that makes post plants a breeze on top of his molly. It is massive area denial with the click of a button and can be used for a variety of reasons.
Open up the sky!
Enemy spotted B.
Deep fried! Spy! I see spy! A spy! I spy this mighty
Cypher is the first Sentinel on our list, and will probably be an easy character to play for Siege players thanks to a deployable camera. His signature ability that comes free of charge. Deployable on just about any flat surface that Cypher is close enough to, he can get really tricky with the placement of this thing and can use it to clear rooms on attack, and obviously gather intel regarding the enemy's incoming push on defense. The camera is invisible until he gets on it, and can get shot out when spotted. But Cypher can leave a parting gift in the form of a tracking dart fired from the camera, which, if it impacts on an opponent, it will make them visible to everyone until they go through a brief animation to take out the dart, rendering them vulnerable. Cypher also gets smokes. Kind of? Not really? I wouldn't really call them smokes. Cypher tosses up to 2 digital pancakes that leave a big hollow tube that juts upward and downwards, and makes a sound cue whenever enemies pass through it. So the shape of it is important to note because you can still see through the top of it and, naturally, anybody inside of the tube. So you might just think these are crappy smokes. He can't deploy them across the map like Omen or Brim can, and he has to toss them, which makes his lineups a lot more difficult to do than anyone else. Well, he can set them, leave them lying around for as long as he wants, and then activate them just by looking at them, including through walls. He doesn't need line of sight. So this is great for ambushing people, especially on defense where he can create one-way angles. His other ability is a tripwire, which he took some servos from Breach's arms to make. Cypher looks at a spot where he wants to place up to 2 tripwires, and then it will form one in a straight line on the opposite surface on which it is placed. The trick is to place these in spots where the enemy is going to least expect them, because walking up to them reveals them with a visual as well as a sound cue. Enemies that run into them will be tethered and then concussed if they don't shoot the wire out in time. If that wasn't enough, their position is revealed to everybody as well, and you can imagine what will happen to someone in this game when they can't move and glow bright yellow through walls.
Careful now.
Cypher's ult, give me a corpse, can be used on dead opponents. When activated after a brief delay, Cypher can reveal the location of all enemies with a brief ping, both with in-game vision and on the minimap. You can imagine how, if this is timed well, it can be a death sentence for whatever plans the enemy has. Hold down the fort with your tripwires, camera, and vision blockage, and hold flanks for your allies.
Fucking dare you.
Watch out, Raze. Move, Raze.
Yeah.
Oh, flank, short.
I'm in showered.
Good attempt.
Jisoo is a common pick in competitive thanks to her ability to peel away when it gets too hot and take fights very quickly and unexpectedly with her dash. Jenny Kim's kit is almost entirely centered around movement. Irene's signature ability is a dash that she can do either forwards, backwards, to the left, or to the right. She gets one of these for free at the start of each round, but can use it again after getting 2 kills. In addition, the dash can be chained with a boost ability that she can buy up to 2 charges of for some crazy vertical play, either with a shotgun or her ult, which I'll get to in a minute. Momo has limited but still useful smokage ability with up to 3 smokes that she can send around corners with enough practice, and they're great for fast executes on sites, leaving a bit more flexibility for the smokers you already have on your team. Sana's ultimate, Knives Out, starring Daniel Craig, activates with 6 charges. She airbends up to 5 knives that she can use to snipe targets from afar, instantly killing them with headshots and refreshing the amount of knives at her disposal, but she can also right-click them like a shotgun blast to take out enemies up close. The catch to the right-click is that it uses all of her knives at once, and if she doesn't get a kill with it, they don't refresh. Even if you don't get the instant headshot kill, the knives are still powerful in their own right and deal 50 damage apiece with a pretty decent rate of fire and no recoil, so getting 3 of them on somebody isn't too difficult, comparatively speaking. The trick to Soyeon's ult is getting the most out of her movement. Her ability stays 100% accurate no matter how fast she is moving or if she is in the air, which goes hand in hand with her passive ability to slowly glide across the air from high surfaces by holding space. Nayeon can take engagements on terms that nobody else in the game can take, and while she's not a utility-heavy character, that in and of itself is a pretty good thing to have. Her effectiveness scales with your aim.
This is nothing. Or you.
You the man, Sage.
Was that important?
I love you.
Double. Yup, the
One enemy
And they were roommates.
Oh my god, they were roommates.
Killjoy's entire kit is centered around passive utility that she can place and combo up with remotely activated mollies. She's very difficult to deal with on sites adjacent to lawn corridors, like B site on Ascent and C site on Haven. Her signature ability is a gun, and if that don't work, use more gun. Killjoy's turret can be deployed for free on a flat surface on the ground or on elevated positions. It's deceivingly easy to get rid of. It doesn't take much to destroy it, but it can tank just enough shots for somebody to swing on a hapless foe whose crosshair isn't placed where it ought to be. It deals damage, obviously. It's a turret, but it doesn't do that much. What makes it probably more dangerous is that it tags and slows enemies like any conventional firearm in the game. So with enough coordination, this turret can set up kills for anybody playing off of it. In the worst case scenario, it can gather intel by notifying Killjoy whenever it sees bad guys, which can prepare her to activate her trap card, a combination of up to 2 molly grenades that remain cloaked until running up to them like Cypher's gadgets, as well as a single-use massager that runs towards bad guys that get too close to it, detonating and stunning them, making them easy pickings. Her Molotovs don't work like conventional grenades in that their throwing arc is very slow, and they can take quite a long time to fall to the ground, wherein you can actually activate them and use them, but it gives the enemy a fair amount of time to react and shoot them, rendering them useless. So it's not quite as suited for aggressive play like Raze's nades or Phoenix's molly, but it can still be handy in a pinch. Killjoy's ult is a giant lockdown circle that shows up pretty easy to see on your minimap that gives defenders just enough time to get out of its effective range, lest they be stunned for a pretty lengthy period of time, unable to shoot and unable to move very fast. It can be shot out of commission before it detonates though, so it forces the enemy to make a quick decision. Do you push through and try to take out the ultimate and commit to your plan, or do you fall back and wait it out? Killjoy is a purely defensive-based character, but that's still not a bad thing on attack and is awesome at flank holding and post-plant shenanigans.
clutch. Calculated.
Omen and Brim are the game's 2 most popular smokers. Omen's smoke refreshes on a 35-second cooldown and can be used over the course of the round, whereas Brim's can't. Omen can also put his smokes on lower pieces of terrain. There are advantages and disadvantages to either of these characters, and it ultimately depends on the map. I'd say Omen's better than Brim on Haven, and Brim's better than Omen on Bind. Omen gets a blind that goes through walls, but also has a pretty big area of effect. So for aggressive sight executes, it's very nice to have, and pretty difficult to counter. You only get one per round though. What you get 2 per round of is an ability unique to Omen, and that's his teleport. At the click of a button, Omen can transport himself from one spot to the other, although there are many caveats to this ability to keep it from being overpowered. It has a brief wind-up period for one, the teleport location is visible to anybody, and once you commit to that, that's it. You can't back out of the animation, so it can be pretty easy to overextend with this ability and put yourself in a bad situation if you're not careful with it. It's more useful for evasive play, to get away from open corridors that are being held by an opera, for instance, in which you can rotate away safely, or as a means to get onto the site and plant quickly without having to expose yourself along the way, so it's nice to give Omen the bomb for this reason. His ultimate is a teleport as well with a unique twist. Omen can teleport anywhere on the map that he chooses. He can do this inside of his own smokes, so you can see the potential for effective surprise spike plants, but it also blurs the enemy's minimap while you are in the process of using this ability. It makes a sound cue that can be traceable though, and the location of where you are going to be teleported can be seen with this ghost-like effect similar to how your conventional teleport works. If it's too dangerous, Omen can cancel this particular teleport, but this means that it can be used as an intel gathering tool as well. Omen is a very versatile smoking character that can fake out his opponents as well as set up takes and stall defenses with his smokes.
Let us commence forth. British?
One of the more typical duelists in the game, equipped with a molly, 2 flashes, and a firewall that can block enemy sight. An interesting aspect about his fiery abilities, though, is that he can heal himself with them. The molly, of course, is good for flushing defenders out of spots you don't want them in and can stop spike planters. The flashbangs are arguably the most powerful aspect of his kit, though, and can be very difficult to counter. When standing in a corner, Phoenix can send a flash orb either to the right or to the left. The orb shoots out, detonates, and then blinds anyone on the other side, including yourself if you're not careful. You kind of have to be mindful of the positioning to make sure it doesn't bounce off of edges and blind yourself and your teammates. Phoenix's ultimate, Second Life. Basically, the long and short of it is this. You hit X, and then you get a second life. You can run around and do everything that Phoenix would normally do in this second life. But if the timer runs out or you get shot, you go back to your default state. You'll come back with your HP topped off, but not your armor.
Well, I'll take it.
But obviously, just the ability to full send without the concrete consequence of death can enable him to make some risky plays that otherwise wouldn't really be justified. As far as duelists go, Phoenix is one of the most versatile and doesn't bring a lot of downsides with him. He has utility for sight clearing, flashes for entering, and vision denial for executes. If you like to play aggro, then the sheer amount of stuff he brings to the table makes it difficult to pass him up.
Oh, you ain't coming back.
One at
Careful now.
Hurry.
I have more tests to run.
Raze's primary abilities are explosives, so she's often maligned as a brain-dead character. Yes, her nades are a pretty easy means of clearing people out of spots you don't want them in, and are useful for gaining sight control on attack. But the skill cap with Raze comes from her satchel charges. Raze can use up to 2 of these things to do rocket jumps without any of the damage that comes with them. You can surf on the blast packs by moving your mouse in the direction you wish to go. Naturally, some blast pack setups are a bit more skill-based and take some practice, but if you get good with them, you can surprise the hell out of people with your ultimate. It's a rocket launcher.
I'm just in with a rocket launcher.
Raze's signature ability that she gets at the beginning of the round is a frag grenade, but not just your average frag grenade. The first explosion from this makes it detonate into 4 tiny smaller grenades. Those explode too. So if you're not careful, it's very easy to get killed by this thing. On an open plane, it's easy to avoid thanks to a sound cue that it makes from far away. Plus, it takes some time for it to detonate, but caught at the wrong place at the wrong time, and it's essentially a free kill. Raze's C is basically the closest thing we'll ever get to a Roomba with a Claymore on it. It travels in a straight line from where it is deployed and bounces off walls until its timer runs out, or until it finds a bad guy, at which point it will beeline for the spotted threat and explode when it gets close enough. It does a pretty decent amount of damage, but can be shot out before it goes off, essentially forcing enemies to deal with it before it can deal with you. It's great for gathering intel right before gunfights and applying pressure to your opponents. It's a single-use ability. With all of these fun explosive toys, does Raze have any downsides? Yes. She's a duelist without flashes.
Oh, saved the round.
What's the
Saved the round.
One enemy remaining.
Oh, nice nade. Nice.
Like Astra, Reyna is an atypical character in terms of how her abilities work. Reyna is an extremely aggro character with a kit that rewards her for it. She can equip up to 2 blinds that work in a unique way. With a click of a button, she can send out an orb through walls that blinds anybody exposed to its line of sight. Some bullets are needed to get rid of it. This is the only blind in the game that can't be dealt with by just looking away from it. You have to shoot it to get rid of it, or just wait out the brief timer for it to disappear. Reyna has 2 abilities that she can activate provided she kills an opponent. When she does so, she can pop either Devour or Dismiss. Devour consumes what is called a soul orb on the body of an opponent she's picked off that heals her and gives her an overheal effect that will substitute any armor she's lost for a brief period of time. Yes, that means on round 1, if she buys a ghost and gets a frag, she can become a fully armored opponent with a better pistol than anyone else. Normally, you have to pick armor or a gun. Reyna, provided you hit your shots, can give you both. If you don't pop Devour and hit Dismiss instead, Reyna can go Danny Phantom and tilt the hell out of opponents by going into a ghost mode that lets her move around and become immune to any damage for a couple seconds. She can't shoot anyone while doing this, but it makes her just about impossible to refrag, and that's what makes her so good. She can take risky, aggressive angles that would normally get traded out. What? Her ult turns her into a one-woman army with a faster fire rate and faster reload speeds, providing healing when getting kills and complete invisibility when hitting Dismiss. Refragging an ally after they got killed by a Reyna is very difficult to do if the enemy player is competent, and it's the reason she's often played by solo queue players. She actively rewards good individual play. Keyword good. If you're not getting frags, you're not really getting anything out of Reyna.
No.
Sage is one of the 3 of the few, the Sentinels. The typical healer that you want in a hero-based shooter. Get used to telling people that your heal's on cooldown. The heal doesn't work instantly either. It's a healing over time spell, and it doesn't restore armor. So if someone is lit badly, it's certainly better than nothing, but that person is still a more vulnerable target than a fully armored opponent. Although her heal is free, and very useful, Sage is very powerful because of her crowd-controlling slow orbs and her ice wall. Sorry, jade wall. It's made of jade, not ice. Sage can get up to 2 of her slow orbs, but she only gets 1 usage out of the Great Wall of China. An interesting quirk is that there is a period in which the wall's activation makes it easier to shoot out. There is a brief window of time where the health on it is fairly low.
I'm healing corner.
So if it's activated right in front of somebody, it's pretty easy to deal with, but it gains a lot more health after that window is up. This means that the wall is more useful when it's deployed ahead of time, instead of hastily set down when the enemy push starts. Not that it's completely useless, but in a perfect world, you want it placed before a push by the enemy, of course. It's still really useful on attack for blocking sight lines while you make a push, and it can be used to protect somebody while they plant the spike, and on some sites, where there are many surfaces that can be wall-banged, it can give you just enough time to get that plant down. Her slow orbs obviously combo very well with any kind of area denial abilities, as it makes opponents stuck in its effect an easy target. Just be careful where you send it, because it can bounce back and affect your teammates instead. What? The res is pretty straightforward. Try not to bait your teammates, and if you're gonna get baited, at least get the kill.
Your duty is not over.
Sorry.
Just some good old hard yakka, standing in between us and victory.
What the f does that mean?
Skye has 3 flashes that are kind of like tow missiles from War Thunder, but they're flashes? I don't know, man. You can use the mouse to send them wherever you want, and you can see where they're going on the map, which is pretty cool. It also means that you can send them up and over walls. All of this comes with a catch. These flashes can be shot out of the sky by the enemy before they pop. And they run on a timer, so if you don't pop them before the timer runs out, you don't really get anything out of them. So what's the big deal? Well, whenever they flash somebody, Skye will tell you.
One mid-link. I mean, one
enemy.
And they also make a different sound cue, so they're not just useful for initiating, but also for gathering intel. However, Skye is an initiator, and it's not her job to play off of these, although there may be some circumstances where she can. It takes a bit for her to get her gun up after the ability is used, so she relies on her teammates to play off of her abilities often. She also gets access to a dog. Dogecoin has a limited range of vision, but it's useful for scouting purposes. If it gets close enough, it can bite enemies and stun them for a brief period, as well as do 30 damage. So it's a good intel gathering and harassment tool. She can also activate a healing circle that has a set amount of HP that she can distribute to teammates within a given round. Not even Sage can heal multiple people at the same time. Skye's ultimate fires a series of 3 homing cabbages? Bird eggs? Skye sends out 3 jellyfish that can nearsight anybody that they run into. They can get shot out as a counter, but they make a lot of noise that can be very disorienting, and they also home in on the location of enemies. So even if the blinding effects don't get procced, they can still be quite useful.
I guess I'll pull some more.
Why do we give up mid? My guy going to mid.
Oh, psych.
Found one.
Joke's over! You're dead!
Skye is not an easy character to play, but she provides a lot to a team that can play off of her abilities well.
Alright.
The only initiator at the moment that doesn't have any flashes. Sova's calling card is intel, and he can do it with his signature ability that fires recon darts from a bow. Since they are fired in an arc, they can be shot over terrain, and Sova can also alter the amount of force at which the dart is shot, and make it bounce once or twice. Obviously, the big brain play potential here is crazy high, and memorizing as many lineups as you can is key to success with Russian Hanzo. The key to success is also not playing too aggro, so that you can use your darts over the course of the round, because they run on a 35-second timer. The same physics can be applied to up to 2 shock arrows he can purchase, which travel until they impact with a targeted surface and then explode, dealing a pretty decent amount of damage in a not-so-meager space. 2 of these things, fired correctly, can drop on a diffuser planter at the same time and instantly kill them. Obviously, their ability to bounce around corners gives Sova the ability to clear out people in spots where they think they might be safe, and their destructive radius can be used to blow up defender utility like Cypher trips and Killjoy nades. His one-time use of a flying drone is useful in and of itself, but it can also fire a tracking dart onto opponents that cannot be removed once it hits them. The targeted foe has to live with being a big juicy target for a couple of seconds, and that can be enough for Sova to combo with his ult, a damage-dealing cone of fire that can go across through the map through all surfaces. There are some ways to play around this, but getting hit once by this thing gives Sova a brief period of wall hacks vision on the target that makes the follow-up shot pretty easy most of the time, unless they're a Raze or a Jett. This ult is often pocketed to get rid of Killjoy ults as well. Sova is only limited by the amount of practice you do in custom games with his lineups. Whether or not you have the patience or the time to learn them all is up to you.
Come.
Viper is often picked as a supplementary smoke character that complements other controllers on the team. She gets a bad reputation, especially in North America. Here's why. Viper gets 1 orb that she has to line up a lot of the time to be able to do the same things that her peers can do. But she does get a decent amount of mileage on 2 maps, Bind and Icebox. And for good reason, she's very good on those maps. Her signature Toxic Wall can travel across the map, giving Viper instant blockage of sightlines with the press of a button for a pretty lengthy period of time, until she runs out of poison, at which point she has to wait to put it back up again. Her single-use poison orb, like I mentioned, can be thrown across the map and acts as a conventional smoke orb. And while it's more difficult for her to do the same kinds of smokes Brim and Omen can do, she gets a lot out of her ability to activate it whenever she wants.
1 enemy remaining.
Basically, Viper can make it a little bit easier on her controller teammates by ensuring that they don't have to smoke this spot on Heaven every single round. Traveling through her poison makes enemies easier to kill too, by reducing their armor and eventually HP levels for the duration that they are in the poison. She also gets 2 mollies that can be launched across the map, can bounce off of surfaces, and deal a pretty decent amount of damage. A lot of tricky combinations can be done with this molly and her wall, and it's really good for post plants. Viper's ultimate is nothing to slouch at either, as she can make the walls ooze green slime upon command, creating a giant domain of green that attackers must be wary of if they wish to enter into it.
Like he's outside hookah. All right.
Viper absolutely has the gunfight advantage in this ult, as she can see opponents inside of it in bright red, and those opponents take the poison armor and damage ticks from it, whereas her and her teammates do not. The ult can be placed vertically to cover other surfaces as well, making some sites basically impossible to take safely, and can force rotates if popped early, and make executes on sites far too late if the clock is winding down. On attack, it can be used to make post plants a lot. But it is a big commitment, and of course killing Viper will destroy the poison cloud. It will also go down if she ventures outside of its walls for too long.
Crouch. Defusing. One enemy remaining. You're crouched.
Oh my god!
Yoru can't seem to catch a break in the competitive meta. His flashes have a long animation time, as well as a pretty lengthy window for opponents to look away, so surprise is of the essence to get the most out of them. Yoru can chain these flashes with his signature teleport ability that he gets for free. I will explain Yoru's teleport in the most efficient way that I know possible. It's Minato's kunai knife trick.
That is map.
Time to jump.
I can still see Spike.
One enemy remaining.
Basically, he can send out a little orb that goes in a straight line until it hits a wall that it cannot traverse past. And then, Yoru can hit E to teleport right to it. You can also place it right where you're standing if you want to as well. Teleporting Yoru has a brief animation to get his gun up, so he's not completely broken.
Over here.
The orb makes a lot of sound, so it can be shot out of commission, but more often than not, weirdos like to not push with their team and just sit on the thing to get a free kill. Yoru can also buy up to 2 sets of ghost feet that he can send in a straight line that make footstep sounds. Not really. They don't sound quite like regular footsteps. If you listen closely, you can tell the difference. So more astute players won't be fooled by this. Yoru's ultimate is a lot like Rave's main ability from Apex Legends, where he can go ghost and run super fast, unkillable by enemies until he comes out on the other side. There is a white circle visible here, wherein if you get too close to enemies, they can see you and probably just wait for you to get out of your ult and clap your cheeks. So you have to be really precise with the timing and make sure to not overextend. It's useful for intel gathering and can occasionally be used to make crazy plays.
I miss Greg.
It's okay.
It's not. I won't even.
One
No, but
girl,
you just
shower,
outplayed
lady,
the shit
shower,
out of
lady.
If you want to see me throw elo on twitch.tv/GregHavener, you can. You can also see when I go live via Twitter notifications at twitter.com/GregHavener. You can see me post artsy fartsy BS at instagram.com/GregHavener. For more Valorant content as a part of the Gregor Gaming experience, subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell because the YouTube algorithm doesn't make sense. And thank you guys so much for watching this video. I'll see you guys in the next one.
One enemy remaining.
Oh my god, nice.
No shot. You didn't know what pro meant by fire, Alex.
So fucking sick of this.
No. I know what fire means.
Okay.
I don't know where the fire is.
Garage.
I'm fired. We're fired.
I didn't know that shit was there. CT. I didn't know that Molly was there. It sucks.
We're fired.
I don't know what that means.
Fire? I said we're fired off.
I don't know what that means.
I'm the one talking, so you can
Hey,
probably assume.
Greg, how many times has Pro do this to me tonight, alright? I don't know what that means.
Yeah, if we could do something like that every round, it'd be golden.
Think about this logic.
Yeah, we got it.
We're
No. Am I wrong?
standing next to me.
Find
Find out on the
actually.
next episode of the Gregor Gaming
Oh, you
Experience.
pussy.